I am personally really excited about the next panel discussion that we have because this would be on creating an interactive theater in your living room, lighting, sound, and tech for the ultimate movie night experience. Given that we love Bollywood, we love our music, we love our movies, I look forward to seeing how this experience is actually going to elevate the lives of our homes. With that being said, joining us on stage would be Mr. Zohir Ramodiya, Managing Partner of Cossack Audio, who will be the moderator for the session. Can we please welcome him with a big round of applause? Can I also invite our panelists for this discussion, Mr. Trevor Woodbury, Vice President Sales, Soundvision Technologies. We have Mr. Arjun Agarwal, CEO, Cinerama Private Limited. We have Mr. Mehernosh Pervez, founder of Sound Decisions, and Mr. Shekhar Mehta, director of Vinshek. I absolutely love how all our moderators and panelists are actually being welcomed on stage with whistles, actually. That's never probably happened in a conference before. That just means that we're actually going to be looking forward to an amazing interactive theater in your living room sort of an experience. With that being said, Zohir, the platform is all yours.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome today for our panel discussion on creating surround sound experiences for living room, lighting and tech. Lighting and tech. And joining me today is Trevor Woodbury. He's the Director of Sales for Soundvision Technologies, which represents Vessel in India. Arjun Agarwal, who is the Director for Cinerama. Mehernosh Pervez, founder of Sound Decisions, and Shekhar Mehta from Vinshek. Thank you guys for joining us. Getting into this, today we are going to discuss about what are the components, what are the factors that are important in deciding when we select for surround sound components in our lighting room. Home theaters become fairly large part of the household today. And I'm going to start this with a question for Mehernosh. Mehernosh, what do you think are the key considerations when selecting audio components for optimal sound quality, specifically taking into account that being a living room, being a media room, we can't have the components located exactly where we would like them as technically, but because considering we need to integrate them into design. It is a home after all, we need to take into considerations of aesthetics. What would you think is, or what do you do rather, to ensure that the components that you select, how is the best way to integrate them?
Thanks, Zohir. So there are many factors when you're designing an AV room or a media room for a home. And as you know now, everything, audio and video, has gone completely architectural. And I always even tell people that AV design is very life-centric, which also means that it really depends how the client lives his life, what is the size of the room. There are many, many factors that really you need to understand and need to derive and have that information before you actually design a good room. Important being the lifestyle of the family. Also, there are many times that sometimes the rooms are not conducive. So it's also a part of a job to educate and tell people, because there's no point in doing something or designing and putting in a space or a system in a room which is not conducive at all. There are rooms sometimes which are hexagonal, which are curved, which have got no shape, where the television and the speakers are all out of sync. And that is one part of it which is very important as a consultant. I'm talking about myself, that you need to tell them, because many people, unfortunately, like many industries, even in our industry, people just want to go out there and sell. And that's where things go wrong, because you may give in a system where the room is not conducive, but you're still giving in something which is not desired. Having said that, apart from that, let's say if the room is perfect and everything is good, one of the things that I always tell my clients, when it comes to speakers especially, that you don't buy speakers, you invest in speakers. So if you ever buy a good set of speakers, and that's one area where I tell my clients that you can go all out and do what you want, because a good pair of speakers will last you for life. And then obviously with the speakers, depending on the kind of speaker or the hierarchy of the speakers you have, your amplifier and everything else that follows needs to be balanced, and they need to be complementing the speakers. So it's a complete balanced setup, apart from being the aesthetics, and then in the end of the day, the budget and so on and so forth.
Thank you. That's a very good insight from an integrator's perspective. Taking the same question to Arjun, what do you see manufacturers doing to adapt this to this specific requirement of living room home cinemas?
So I think it's a few things from a manufacturing perspective and from a solution perspective. So I'll talk a bit about both. First, hearing both of you guys talk about how it's architectural, we definitely see that. But I think if you look at, and that's very true in Bombay and the West, but we've seen enough theaters where we tell clients we have a great in-wall option. Client said, "Nahi, I want to see the speaker." Right? So again, to your point, I think it's very dependent on the client's lifestyle and what they want. From a manufacturer's perspective, I think one of the biggest advances we've seen, again to Mehernosh's point about most rooms being suboptimal, is the importance of calibration technology. Right? Because that's where your processor or your AV receiver can really play a point, because rooms are not perfect. And in a living room especially, there is a limited amount we can do in terms of acoustics, because we don't have the space to add elements. So using calibration technology like DIRAC can make up for limitations in the room, and I think we see that making a big difference in installs. The last point, again to what Mehernosh said, speakers are a great investment, electronics a little less so. And this is what we always advise our clients and we advise our partners, that when you look at a client, they should be a lifetime client of yours. Right? They should come back to you, they should trust you. And one way we've seen to do that is tell clients the same thing. Invest in speakers, but from an electronics perspective, because A, the life cycle of electronics is much shorter, B, the technology advancements in electronics happen at a much more frequent rate. You want clients to be able to upgrade their electronics every few years, either because of electronics dying out or because of new technologies. If you make clients spend an exorbitant amount on electronics, that desire to upgrade comes down. So we always tell clients, spend more on speakers, less on electronics, be willing to be flexible in adding new electronics and changing what you have, so that your system can last you, for a number of years.
Thank you for that. Next question is for Shekhar. What do you, rather because you also have a significant automation background, I'd like to ask you, these systems are fairly complex. I mean, like Arjun Wright said, you calibrate them, you use DSPs, you use DIRAC to control them. How do you think automation can help into integration of all these components and present it to the client in a manner that they can understand? Like, what do you think is the best way to come about this?
Thanks, Zohir. So, as I understand, in the world of audio, video, and controls, especially the automation, the fact today, as on date, that there are a lot of manufacturers try to build new lineup of solutions which eventually take care of controlling audio-video products. Because this is very important today, because every manufacturer, whether an audio, like a speaker manufacturer or a video projection system solution provider, they generally come up with their own set of standard of controlling the products nowadays. For example, the air condition in the house, they try to come up with a solution of controlling air condition with an app. When we talk about projectors, it comes with an app. There are multiple devices which are come with their own controls standards. But the fact is, when we talk about ease of controlling the devices, automation, a central node automation systems from reputed brands in the world today, they give you the option of controlling these devices to make things more easier instead of struggling with its individual app. So yes, because of those features, even the audio manufacturers, whether it's a speaker or amplifiers, they are eventually coming up with their open protocol products, which can be easily integrable to any of these automation devices. So eventually, you integrate all of the third-party products, whether it is audio, lighting controls in your space, or air conditions and everything, so that the things becomes more easier. And for the control with a single touch panel, whether it's a touch panel or whether it's basically a hard button-based systems or remote controls, wireless remote controls, all that. Because having multiple devices is always a challenge in the space, and specifically because of that, all the manufacturers are coming up with nowadays, like let's take an example, a Blu-ray player. 5 years back, it was being controlled on IR remote controls, but now the Blu-ray players are coming with an IP control. Same thing when we talk about streaming devices, now they are coming with an IP commands so that it becomes easily integrable into the automation devices. And needless to say, controlling everything into one set of standard for an automation with a beautiful user graphics, it's definitely everybody loves it to have a single controls over it. It's like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mehernosh, same question to you. You do these large home cinemas where, again, a lot of complex systems, multiple users as well. So what do you reckon is the best way to integrate?
I always have the perspective as an integrator and as a consultant. My perspective slightly is very different from a distributor or a dealer or a manufacturer. So here's what my take on automation per se is that 15 years ago, automation was a luxury. Now I think in today's time, automation is a necessity for the nice, good, large home. The key problem over here is it's not the automation, but it's the implementation of automation many times. And I don't know if you've seen, but I think it's pretty much probably a common factor all around the world, a thought process. The minute you talk about, even when you talk about automation or you introduce or you want to introduce automation to an architect or a client, the first thing is no, I don't want automation. It's like the cops. You know, when people are apprehensive about it, where they actually need to be saying that, you know, they're going to be helpful. It's the same analogy. So automation, unfortunately, has been so mistrued because there are certain sectors and certain areas where if it is not implemented, it can actually backfire. So automation from that way, it's all about planning and choosing a good brand because all the brands are very, very good. And I always again say it's like an artist. So you may have the best paint and the best canvas and best of all the materials that you have. But if you don't have a good painter, it makes no sense. It's a big zero. But yes, having said that, it makes your life hugely simple. And of course, I don't need to introduce, but you have one-touch control, you have macro controls. There's so many times in the day, in the evening, when you have a large house and you just want to press one button to create a particular scene, it's really simple. But the key is that if it needs to be done well. And of course, now there are some even advanced automation where it really helps you. I don't know if people are aware of, which I've learned from one of my friends, the circadian cycle. So people who don't know what about the circadian cycle is, it's about the daily pattern of light that if impacts your biological cycle. So light, as you know, sunlight or sunset or daytime or day-night, affects your body cycle. So a circadian cycle is what the sunlight, how your mood is, how you feel in the morning. In the morning, you're more active. In the evening, you're more relaxed because as the sun goes down, the light goes down. So circadian cycle and the circadian rhythm, that controls the biological cycle. So now there are some really good automation systems that actually can mimic that circadian cycle in your house and control the light to give you that entire kind of enhancements in your thing. So automation can really do wonders. But the trick is, like I said, it needs to be done well. That's my take.
Thank you. Moving on. There's some very good insights from both of you. Thank you for that. This is a question for Trevor. What do you think is the impact of multi-room audio and video tech systems in living rooms and in new age homes?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I agree with what both of you said. And I think that is relevant when we get into talking about this next question. I really like what you said about a painter is only as good as his skills. You know, you could have somebody with all the correct equipment, but if you don't have somebody who's truly good at painting, the client's going to be left with a negative experience. And the reason I like that in leading that into this next subject is I think that we're seeing a trend in this industry of companies coming out with products that are more designed and trying to go more directly after the consumer. And I think a lot of system integrators are very afraid of these products. They're very fearful of these products because they feel like they're maybe pushing them out of the industry. And while that may be true for some products, I think that a lot of system integrators are looking at it also a little bit wrong. And let me explain that. When we talk about streaming audio, and obviously I represent a brand called VSSL, which is about streaming audio, and we are, our whole basis, our whole principle is more on the simplification of streaming audio in multi-zones. So we are trying to provide the easiest solution out there. I think that where system integrators are failing to connect a little bit, and I'm not saying with Vessel, but I'm saying with other particular brands or competing brands, and we see a lot of brands that are now getting lower and lower cost in this specific category. Where integrators, I think, can take a hold of that, because let me back up a little bit and say, I don't think these brands and these solutions, they're not going to go anywhere. We're going to continue to see more companies coming out with products that are going directly after the end user, trying to be easy, super easy and simple enough that anybody can install it, right? But we as system integrators know that they're not as easy as it might seem. And where I think system integrators can take a hold of this is they can say, I'm not afraid of these products, and I won't back away from offering them if I know they'll provide a good solution to my customer. And maybe I'm not going to make as much money selling this particular solution, but I do know that it's going to give a very good experience to my customer, and I will now take, you know, what I would have maybe budgeted towards that category, and I will put it towards some higher end speakers, or I'll put it towards some higher end amplification, or a higher end home theater, which really, in my opinion, some of those other areas are where the end user is really going to get a lot more enjoyment. And so I think, again, just circling back to the question here, it's key that system integrators don't shy away from you know, simpler, easier solutions, so long as they provide the right solution to their customer. But don't be afraid of that, and don't be afraid to you know, look at those products in a little bit different light and figure out how to improve your customer's experience, and at the same time improve your margins and all of that at the end of it.
I tend to agree with what you're saying, because like voice devices are an excellent way to initiate the activity, but like things like Alexa, the HomePod, they're great for single rooms, but when you go into the multi-room sphere, they don't really seem to match up. And like a lot of these dedicated devices, like Vessel as well, they are able to scale up. They are able to sit and provide it across a larger home. Yep. So we can end up using voice to initiate it from an Alexa, from an HomePod, and then let the audio quality bit take over on dedicated speakers, dedicated amplification. Taking this question forward to you, Arjun, how do you think manufacturers and retailers are adapting to this trend now?
Great questions, Zohir, and I think Trevor made some great points that I wanted to go off of. So we represent Onkyo, Pioneer, Integra in India, and we've been talking to them closely about, you know, their multi-room audio strategy, because unlike Denon and Marantz, who have HEOS, which is their own platform, Onkyo decided to go down a dual route, and Klipsch as well. The first was working with Play-Fi. Play-Fi is more of an open ecosystem where the idea was always that different manufacturers can implement the same protocol and devices can talk to each other. The technology first came out about 8 years ago, and it was, as I think most platforms, it took a while to get its act together, but it works pretty well now, and it gives customers and installers the flexibility to choose from multiple brands. You can have a low-A soundbar in one room, you can have an Onkyo AV receiver in a second room, and the ability to talk cross-platform, I think, is important, and it's something core to what Onkyo believes in. The second piece, which I also think is important, is one of what I call specialization. So LinkPlay as a streaming platform has become pretty strong, and I think the best-known manufacturer of LinkPlay solutions is Vim. And it's a strong streaming platform. They've nailed the UI, and Onkyo and Klipsch took the decision that, hey, you know, our expertise is electronics, amplification, technologies like Dirac. Klipsch's specialization in speakers, multi-room is a whole other ball game, right? For a manufacturer to get multi-room right, you need constant engineering, you need constant uptake, and again, to my point earlier,
And integration with a lot of other
other
competing
vendors,
products.
exactly. Right? And like new technology comes in, like when Wi-Fi moved from 2.4 gig to 5 gig, suddenly a whole bunch of devices went obsolete. So their philosophy has been, and it's one I tend to agree with, is break out the multi-room into potentially a lower cost separate device, so customers can upgrade that when they want that technology. So then you have three components. You have your multi-room streaming component, you have your amplification, and you have your speakers. And again, to Trevor's point, as long as those are cheap, people tend to shy away from it, but why not? Because the customer budget is fixed. If they're spending less on streaming, they'll spend more on amplification and on speakers. So the overall experience is better. And I think that's where the opportunity for us is choosing the right components to make sure in the same budget, you're giving a better experience, a longer lasting experience, and a painless experience.
So that's audio taken care of. Moving on to video. Question for you, Shekhar. What do you think are the new display technologies that are coming into living rooms, media rooms, and how do they impact the final product?
So, yeah. So when we talk about the video displays solutions nowadays, like ranging from standard TVs to now the upcoming thing in the industry like LED displays, going down to a much bigger size what a person can think of, because they are modular and can be adapted to any sizes what you want. So yes, there are some specific demands from the few of the ultra premium clients who have been not just looking at the standard TVs, they are also looking at a larger size entertainment spaces designed for that large size video displays. And of course, because of that, what we foresee in India, there are a lot of brands, prominent brands from like Sony and LG. They are already into this era of bringing out the new LED panels. And there are a couple of installs which have been great in terms of daylight visibility in the outdoor spaces, or it can be a beautiful media room inside the house. So, of course, there's always been questions about the display brightness, the LED modules which have been used, the sizes, which takes a lot of technical guidance to design the solution, which, of course, I see that is one of the few prominent manufacturers has to go through a process of trainings to the system integrators in terms of deploying this technology into the spaces. Because it is not just about selling a TV and installing it and you're ready to just for your entertainment space. It requires some technical edge over it. So it is growing in India as a market. Internationally, it's already been deployed a lot of places, but in India, I see a lot of not only just the so-called Fortune 500 companies, but eventually there are a lot of importers who have been bringing the LED modules or different technology inside for the media spaces, or even for this home cinema per se. Yes, the in-between solution nowadays, which especially for the lifestyle situations for the media spaces, ultra short throw projectors is something in between, which has been very much accepted by most of the house owners, and especially by the interior designers or who is creating the house and designing the place, because it avoids the conversion process of installations, ceiling mounts installation, or motorized mechanisms and all that. So ultra short throw projector is something in between, which gives you a reasonably a larger size than TV, but yet it gives you a better brightness, using a better quality screens, like daylight screens and all that. It gives you a great quality performance. So yes, India is in a very emerging mode. People understand the video technological part. Many manufacturers and a lot of importers of projectors, a lot of these things, they have been bringing a lot of new technology, and people are accepting in India, and we see good for like.
No, active LEDs also is making a huge inroad into living rooms.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, thanks.
So another question, now last question for all the panelists out there. I'll start with you, Trevor. There is this need that the clients have when they come to integrators, and they say that I want the best sound possible, and that generally entails a lot of complexities at the back end. What do you reckon is like the best way to, I wouldn't say compromise is the wrong word, but to balance out that high quality sound with an ease of use for the client?
That's a great question. And I think it can kind of trail off of my earlier remarks, but I think that system integrators, well, let me start out by saying shows like this are key for system integrators. We need to continue to have shows like these so that you guys as integrators can come and see each of these companies, see what there is going on, find out what's new, what's unique, learn about, take the time to invest. It's going to be an investment in your own business if you take the time to learn about each one of these booths and companies are doing and representing and creating and coming out with, because a lot of them are coming out with really good solutions. And again, back to not shying away from certain solutions, whether they're high cost or low cost. You can find ways to make the money you need to make and marry very simple solutions that might be low cost or high cost with better quality product that is either higher cost or lower cost. But again, I think it's things like this, these events, these types of expos, getting education for yourselves and taking the time to learn what's out there, because we're continuing to see better and better solutions come out.
Yes, education, all the way. It makes a huge difference in the final product that we as integrators give out to the world. Same question passing on to you, Arjun.
I'd love to hear an answer because I don't have an answer in my own house. But I think it's a few key things. One is, and we've seen this repeatedly, if stuff is, when I say stuff, I'm talking about AV systems or automation, if it's unreliable, right? If it works and sometimes you put it on and it doesn't work, or there's some HDMI ARC problem, people get frustrated very quickly and they stop using it. They'll just switch back to the TV. So I think making sure whatever solution there is, however simple it is, but that it's reliable, I think that's key. Because I think that I've seen people are willing to do the learning curve if they know that there is a predictable result at the end. But if they learn the complexity of turning a system on, and whether it's an app or a universal remote control has changed behavior, they're willing to change their behavior as long as they get the reward. And the biggest thing that prevents that reward is stuff just not working. So I think making sure that it just works is the first step. And then adding more features is after that.
Thank you. Moving very quickly, Mehernosh.
So I think I'll probably concur with Trevor to start with. I think one of the most important aspects is that education is important, that you need to educate your client and tell them what you need to do. And then end of that, which I always say, that AV design is completely about striking a balance. It's a balance between aesthetics, application, lifestyle, which is very, very important, and of course, all put together with a budget. And the key here is, again, it's all about planning and designing, and hence, partnering up with good people is, again, a very, very important people. In fact, one of the mantras that I always use in my business, I always tell that I don't partner with brands, Zohir. I partner with people. To me, people matter, brands don't. And that is my basic mantra that I've always followed in life. And I think that has really, really helped me, because to me, that's the people who are going to give you support. They're going to give you the kind of backup that you need as and when you need. So a well-designed system with a good integrator, with an honest design is what really takes you further. And of course, tie that up with an automation and lighting system and all the other paraphernalias like Arjun and Trevor said. I think that will really sum it up. That's how I look at it.
And lastly, Shekhar, on the same.
So yeah, so I think everybody has covered on all the points, which is the pre-essence of doing a great install, so that as a system integrator and solution provider, you face less of a maintenance as an installations and all that. But the point here, most important, like I represent a lot of different brands in my kitty as a representative and distributor. I meet lots sets of people in the industry. There are a lot of people in the industry of AV and automation. Few people are really, really experienced, and they really urge to do a good installs with great back-end design, installation, and everything. And I meet few people who talks about a lot of solutions, but eventually when I have more interaction, I feel that they don't know the subject, how to do the great installation. So yes, it's a duty of when we talk about brands to basically educate the people not only in terms of just the product and the solution, but a nice way of installing is very a key important part. So that it's basically good for the system integrator and solution provider that the maintenance comes up. He doesn't face the challenge of maintenance after that when he's doing a great installation. And yeah, of course, India is a market where cost effectiveness is a very key important role. Deploying the project on time, because they are not a structured way of, not just from the system integrator's point of view, but there are a lot of challenge in the customer-centric approach of completing their houses and all that, which has been there. So of course, that's the important part of education is very important over there. Yeah, thanks.
Super. Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to throw up the room now for any questions. I believe the gentleman in the brown shirt had some questions at the start in the front.
Hello. Hi. So I had a quick question for Mehernosh. How would you put acoustics as a part of this whole game when you're putting up a theater, especially at this kind of category?
Good question.
Well, absolutely. In fact, acoustics is the other pillar. So what I always say, it's a complete different science. And the big mistake a lot of architects, unfortunately, sometimes a lot of residents, clients also make is they have this, which I learned from a very dear acoustical consultant whom I have, where people use a copy-paste approach, which is the worst thing that anybody can do. And I also say that acoustics can make or break a room. So if you do not have good acoustics, especially one of the fortes that we do is designing dedicated high-end rooms, and people who have the luxury of a dedicated room in a city like Bombay, acoustics is extremely critical. And I always say, I'm not an acoustic consultant, I am an AV consultant. My knowledge on acoustics is limited, so I don't delve into that space, and I let the professionals do that. But yes, to answer your questions, in a serious room, and even sometimes challenging rooms, you have sometimes large halls and you're really high ceilings. Acoustics plays an important role, otherwise it's a disaster. You can do all that you want in your room and put the best and the finest of the speakers, but if the room is not going to allow you to do that, then yes, that's where acoustic really comes in. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Julie.
So most of the talk I was...
Let's wait for a second. Just a second.
Nice music. So education was the most key thing which you all were discussing about. Don't you think distributors in India should actually make their dealers, after educating them and after certifying them, which makes things easier rather than just, trying to give dealers and...
I can take that. I think you're absolutely correct. And I think we've seen education in the training events that we hold. We don't do anything at a large scale. We do training events city-wise for groups of 15, 20 people. We've seen it's absolutely critical because we've seen it's not just adoption of our products that we drive, but the quality of experience our partners can give after training changes dramatically. And we've also seen, the important, I think all of us who train know this, having practical hands-on training is much more effective than just theory, right? So you can only do so much online. It's much more critical to give people the tech in their hands, make them do the calibration, make them see the difference. You call them and say, hey, here's what it sounds like before you calibrate, here's what it sounds like after. Make them calibrate, give them the confidence that it's not rocket science, and that's where we've seen, that's what we've seen move the needle.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Zohir. I think that's all the time that we have. May I request our panelists and moderator to kindly come together for a quick photo op. Zohir, if that's okay with you, you've been asking a ton of questions to our panelists. Can I ask you a question? No one's really had the opportunity to do that. So if you could actually build yourself an interactive media experience or a media room, what would that room actually look like?
So this is something that I've actually thought about myself. More of a man cave kind of a setup. And the first thing would be the largest screen that I can possibly get. Because I do like to consume multiple media at the same time. So for me, an ideal setup would be wall-to-wall screen, multiple inputs on that, having spots on one, having some podcast on the other, and another spot on the other side. So I would like to
Amazing.
have like a massive media room with a lot of video.
Are we invited for movie night then?
Oh, for sure, always.
Zohir.
and that's the beauty. Pick which one we want to watch.
Oh, beautiful. Parallel
Zohir,
screens running with different
I have a
movies there.
question. What speakers would you pick?
Did you hear Clips? Powered by Vessel. Also sponsored by Clips and Vessel.
It's a good answer.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. May I request you to kindly come together for a quick photo op and requesting Mr. Shekhar from Smart Home Expo to kindly join me on stage to felicitate our moderators and our moderator and our panelists that we have. And can we please have a big round of applause for our moderator of the session, Zohir Ramodiya, along with the panelists that we had, Mr. Trevor, Mr. Arjun, Mr. Mehernosh, and Mr. Shekhar. Thank you so much, panelists, for your insightful knowledge and information that you shared with us today. Thank you so much. I think there was so much of learning. Thank you so much, Shekhar.